Guys, so welcome to the first episode of a series I've been meaning to do. Sorry, I'm still trying to organize this. I'm literally using a boom mic stand to hold up my phone since my camera still is not working, which kind of sucks. But welcome to Coffee Time with Jack. So if anyone has been around on this channel since I started, this channel was not originally a Guitar Gear channel. I originally used this channel as a platform where I was going to talk about bands, I was going to talk about music, I was not going to focus on instruments, or Guitar Gear, even though I was and still am a guitar player. I wanted to focus on spreading awareness of types of music. And obviously, I got away from that. And I feel like I made the right decision. However, it's something I've always wanted to bring back. And I've been wanting to do this for about a year, seriously, and I've been trying to figure out the best way to do this. And since I've started streaming on my second channel, I thought this would be a great way to do this. I'm going to have little live streams. I'm hoping they'll be weekly, maybe on Sundays, maybe on Fridays. I don't know when, just sometime in the week for now. But enough of that out of the way. I hope everyone is having a great Sunday. I'm doing a little bit of shopping right now for a combo amp, and I've got some stuff that might be happening, might not happen. We'll see coming up this week. But that's not what we're here for. Today, we're going to talk about Mammoth, um, or also known as Wolfgang Van Halen's band, Mammoth. WVH, whatever you want to call it. I just say Mammoth, or I'll say Wolfgang's band. So I've been wanting to do this as the first episode since the album came out. I'm not the biggest Van Halen fan. I like Van Halen as a music, or as I like their music. My favorite song by them is "Hot for Teacher." I just like the drum intro and the guitar. It's good stuff. I like Van Halen. I'm just not the biggest Van Halen guy. Never really have been. However, about, I want to say January, my buddy Chris told me, hey, Wolfgang is coming out with an album. And I was like, who's Wolfgang? And then he explains, like, yeah, it's Van Halen's son. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, and I think the first single was out and he showed it to me and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Um, it it's music that I resonate with sound wise. It's completely different from Van Halen. It's not supposed to be Van Halen. Excuse me. It's his music, which is that's why it's Mammoth. Ironically, that's the original band name for Van Halen was Mammoth, I believe. But his father, Eddie, was like, yes, you can use this name, which is cool, and I'm glad. I like that the name itself has an origin, but at the same time, it's got some coolness to it that it stands on its own. It's not Eddie Van Halen's son or like Eddie Van Halen Jr. music. It's not if Van Halen was alive or Van Halen came out today. It's its own thing, and I love that. And it's what I want to call modern classic rock. And I feel like with this band, along with other bands like Greta Van Fleet, we're kind of getting a resurgence of that 80s, like early 80s, late 70s sound. A lot like back in the early 2000s when we got stuff like Arctic Monkeys, uh, and like, I don't want to say the Killers, but the Strokes, that's who I'm thinking of, and Franz Ferdinand, that kind of sound. But it's more, that was like mid 70s, late 60s kind of a sound. Now we're shifting to like the early 80s. But it's still got modern influences. It's really cool to listen to his album. because I believe he recorded everything himself for this album, Wolfgang Dig, and it's it's interesting because there's a big dynamic of the songs on there. Let me see about getting that pulled up real fast. Hold on. If I can spell it right. Okay, so it's not a super long album, but it's pretty good. I'm actually gonna have to put on my glasses for this, so excuse the glare from my windows. But the first track is Mr. Ed, and it's a really cool intro. It's a short song, and whenever I've listened to it, some people are like, "Oh, it's a tribute to Van Halen. It's or to his father." It's not. The last track on the album is, however, but Mr. Ed's not. It's just a cool like, bam! Like this is the start of the album, and it's not a slow start. It's you get hit with a wall of cool sound. After that, I actually don't know the order, but "Don't Back Down" was the first single I believe off of this album, and it is a great example of what I call classic rock in modern age, or just a rock sound. You think of when you hear rock bands, at least to me, when I hear someone's like, "Oh, I love this rock band," the first thought that comes to my mind is Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters is a rock sound. They're not really anything else. They can do songs that have big like differences, like it's a little bit cleaner or it's a lot more high gain. It's not a metal band. It's not a grunge band. It's not alternative rock. It's just rock. It's pure rock. And that's kind of what Mammoth is like, taking that torch and like, yeah, I'm going to do this. You listen to Don't Back Down. It fills you up. It gets you like energized. Like, this is a good album. Like, you're going to like this. Next track, I'm not doing track in any order because I don't know the order. I'm just going to go off of the tracks that I can see. I have the track list pulled up in front of me. Is Mammoth. I believe that is the third single that came out for this album. And the hook for this song, the chorus is beautiful. The lyrics, you found, or it's like, I think it's you lost a mammoth weight right off your shoulders. And every time I hear that, I get chills because it's like, yeah, yeah, that's what that's what this album is about, is letting go of like a lot of stuff and just getting through stuff. Obviously, some people think that this album is because his father died. Unfortunately, no. I can see where you come from the examples of the songs off this album. However, and like, the meanings you can construe that. Music is subjective. Every song has its own meaning. I mean, there's a Metallica song. It's a famous Metallica song. And it's it sounds like it's off like one of their older albums, and it sounds so depressive. It sounds like James is wanted, like he wants to kill himself, he wants to die, he hates his life, he's depressed because someone stole his favorite Marshall lamp. That's what that song's about. That is my perfect example that I love to use when people talk about how subjective music is and the different meanings. Again, I apologize for the glare. But this album was wrote like 2 years ago. He's been working on it for 2 or 3 years, and unfortunately, it just timed in a circumstance where, yes, his father was very sick and died, and it's a sad thing because Eddie Van Halen was a great guitar player. I'm not never ever gonna not give him the credit he deserves. He inspired like hundreds of guitar players, probably thousands, and bands and stuff. But that's not what this album is about. It's just, in my opinion, it's like good rock music to get you through the day. Then you hear songs like Resolve. That's probably my favorite track on this album, which is weird because it has a very acoustic or clean intro, if I remember correctly. But it just hits you with feels. You know, After that, you get songs like Think on It or Empathy, Feel, Stone. Like, these are all songs that just by the title, you can tell it's about getting through stuff. That's this album is getting through music or getting through something with music, getting through something how you cope. I personally cope with video games and music. Other people cope with exercise or other people cope with stuff in not good ways, but there's everyone's different. And I feel this album is not a coping mechanism for the unfortunate passing of his father. It's just a coping mechanism to get through life on bad days. I mean, it's just a banger of an album. There's not a bad song on the album. My personal opinion, I would give this a 10 out of 10 album. It I pull up the end track. You pull that up. You pull the music video up for that, and it's called Distance. Distance is about his father. It is about his dad dying and stuff, and it's just a really good tribute. The music video and the song will make you cry because the song, if I remember correctly, ends with a voicemail from his father. And every time I listen to it, it makes me want to call my dad and say, "Hey, how are you doing today? Because I need to talk to you because I'm afraid something might happen." Not that he's in poor health, just you never know what'll happen on a day-to-day basis. And that's another thing I think this album really gets you thinking. I mean, there's a track called "Think It Over," and it's about pushing through life, but I don't know. It's a really solid album for getting you through the rough times, and it's a solid album for making you really think about how your life is. The fact that he did this by himself, by the way, is great. The band itself, I believe he does have a touring band, obviously, with him, but he recorded and wrote everything himself. That is amazing. I can't, I wish I could do that. I can't play drums, or else I'd try. That's something I wish I could learn is how to play drums. But it is a solid rock album. There was a huge controversy when this came out. I wouldn't say huge, but there was a controversy. Apparently, the artwork for the album, which is you look at the artwork and it's like, okay, this is what this kind of music is. It is literally a businessman standing in front of a giant crab that you could see like in a Godzilla movie, and there's like explosions and stuff going on behind him. But the dude's just like, I'm on my way to work, kind of a thing. And apparently another band or artist had used this same image, so I believe that got all worked out because you can still buy it with that artwork. But Wolfgang has been very vocal recently in in the music world. People, will take the fact that his name is Wolfgang Van Halen. His name is a famous guitar player, a famous band. And they're like, well, you're only famous because of who your dad is. That might be the case of why he can get into the music industry easier than other people. But honestly, if you were to hand me this album, I had no idea who it was. I would just be like, this is a great band. Who is this? I would love to check out their music. They're very talented. It's one dude. Obviously, I'm sure that, there'll be another, his next album will probably include like an actual band. I mean, I could be completely wrong on that. But his name may have gotten him in the door, but it's not going to be the reason Wolfgang stays around. Right now, I believe Mammoth is touring with Guns N' Roses. I personally wouldn't want to tour with Guns N' Roses, but apparently they've been very cool with him. They've been very open about how much they actually enjoy his music, and they've been supportive. That's really cool. Another big thing with the name is, people have asked him, why are you using your father's name? Why are you using that name in, for the band name Mammoth, WVH or whatever? And, why are you putting Van Halen in there if you're not going to play Van Halen music? Because he refuses to play Van Halen live. Honestly, I don't blame him. I would do the same exact thing. I'm sorry that you've come to see Van Halen. Van Halen does not exist anymore. You know, David Lee Roth, I believe, is retiring. Sammy Hagar, I also believe, is retired. Other members, because I know Wolfgang played bass for the band in the last few years. The drummer, and I don't know if there's a rhythm player. Again, not the biggest Van Halen fan. I like the music, but I don't know everything about the band. I'm sure that, you know, someone would play, if there was a tribute show or something, they could do something like that. But he's not here to just play Van Halen music. He's here to play his music that he wrote. And that's super admirable. And the fact that, you know, people get mad at him like, play Panama, you know, play this, play that. It shows that, you know, that's all people want to hear, but at the same time, go somewhere else. There are 1,000, I guarantee you, you can go to any bar band. They're probably going to play music that you like, for one. Two, I bet there's Van Halen tribute bands out there. Go find one of those. I'm sorry. This is not a Van Halen tribute band. This is Wolfgang's music. If you don't like the music, don't stay. It's not his responsibility to do that. It's not his responsibility to, I'm going to carry on the lineage by playing the same music. No, I'm sorry. He has the total right to play whatever he wants. And I like the sound that he's coming from. I like the idea. I mean, could he play Panama? Yeah. Could he play any of the Van Halen songs? Yeah. Any of the Sammy Hagar Van Halen songs? Yes. I guarantee you he could. But that's not what it's here for. It's here to be his sound, his music, and that's super cool because it's really good rock music. It's just solid music that gets you in the mood to like want to have a good day, get you in the mood to just want to hang out with friends, relax. Like I could hear in my mind when I listen to the album, I could literally just see like a fun house show, you know, where it's a bunch of people, but they're all just hanging out. They're not like crazy partying. You could do that to this music, but and it's cool because we're in a time in music history where I feel like rock music, guitar music, whatever you want to call, you know, is coming back into the mainstream. Um, there's a bunch of artists that are out there that are making that type of music. That's just kind of showing. It's. I think we're in the early stages, you know, of the sound, but I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be in full swing of just rock music is back and everybody loves it. And it'll be a catalyst. This, and like I said, the other example that comes to my mind, and it is because I am from Michigan, is Greta Van Fleet. Yes, people have very strong opinions about that band. I love that band. You know, they're not my favorite, but I love them. I like their music. I support them because A, they're from my home state. B, I have a big connection with their hometown, which is Frankenmuth. I've spent a lot of time there, and yeah, so I like their sound, but that they will have their own episode. Reel it back into Wolfgang. So I see his music come out, and I see that we are accepting, I guess, in the mainstream. Yes, he has the name. That helps. That is not going to be the reason why it sticks around, though. I really don't imagine that in the next 5 years, 10 years, because this music has longevity. It's not going to be a quick thing where, you know, 2 years down the road, it's like, well, what happened to that band Mammoth? No, it's going to be around. You know, maybe not to the extent of his father's band, because Van Halen is one of those things that does come around once in a lifetime. There's a ton of other classic rock bands and just rock bands in general that have that sound that just, it's once in a lifetime, man, that this is going to change life and society. Is he looking to do that? No. He's looking to play his music the way he wants to do it, and get out there and play it for people. That is the purest form of just enjoying music and just being a musician. You know, whenever I find people that I play with or try out for bands or talk to other guitar players, and they talk more like, oh, I'm really in it for the money, man. You know, I want to be famous. I want to support myself doing this music. There is nothing wrong with supporting yourself doing music, by the way. That's super admirable. But when that's the only thing, good luck. Because you need to have the passion there. Music is it's subjective. It's hard to support yourself with music unless you reach those heights of like you're in this forever. People will know your name forever. Can you do it, just as a session musician? Yeah. That's super easy. Not super easy. Excuse me. Super possible. That's what I meant to say. Super possible to do. But, you're probably going to need some side thing going on to help take care of the bills. But when people to me say they're in it for the money, it feels soulless. If someone's in the music because they love the sound, they love just the feel of having their instrument in their hands. I can come in here and sit in my studio. I've got all my equipment over here pretty much, besides like this amp, and I can look at the guitar and I'm like, yeah, I want to play like that. That looks good today, or like, oh, that makes me think about this sound. When I look at a guitar, I like think of either a color or a sound, and I'm like, what goes with that color? That would be a sound, or what goes with that image in my mind. Yesterday I was up at my grandparents, who live up north. My grandfather, and this is on my mom's side, he is a drummer, he's a bass player, he's a guitar player. He can play a lot of instruments. My grandma on that side, she can play keyboard, bass, and mandolin, and probably a little bit of guitar, and probably some other instruments that I don't know about, knowing them. And it was cool. Me and my grandpa jammed. It was the first time in about a year. They are truck drivers, so they go around a lot. They're home on the weekends, but he's been putting off music for a little bit, and I get it. And we jammed, and he has a Gibson Les Paul, and I picked it up, and it has the classic gold top look, like the old class. It's not an old one. It's just from like the 2010s. But it has that look, and I see that, and I get a sound in my head immediately. Drop D it, but I drop D it for a blues riff, and he hops on the drums, and we had a good time. So, as to reel this back in again, this is probably gonna be how Coffee Time with Jack goes. By the way, where I'm gonna go off on tangents. That's just the feel of loving the music. When anything that you're a hobby of, or something you love to do becomes a chore, it's not fun anymore. It's not going to be what drives you. It's not going to be something that you're going to do forever and ever. If something that you love, like playing music and getting your sound out there, is because you want to just do that, and you want your music to be accessible, you want people to feel and enjoy, that's what's important, in my opinion, I guess I should say, for music. I have always said, since I've like really gotten the guitar, I'd like to be rich and famous. I'd like to, at the very bare minimum, pay my bills and live off of my music. Maybe not super famous, but like, you know, the ability to pay and live off of it, that would be great. But I would be satisfied with someone just saying, your music inspired me to pick up guitar, or your music inspired me to learn an instrument. That's what I would be happy with in my life with my music. Everyone has their own goals, and I feel that Wolfgang's is to get his sound, his idea, his voice out there to the world. And maybe not to get to the heights of his father, but to be able to be like, stand up on his own and be like, my name's Wolfgang Van Halen. This is my sound. Enjoy. It's different from my father's. And that's super respectable. That's super cool. And I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to see where this band goes. You know, I'm probably guessing that there probably won't be an album for at least a year to 2 years. I could be wrong. Something could happen. He could hop right back into that studio and just work. Like I said, currently he is on tour with Guns N' Roses. So we'll see what happens. But let's just see what if my predictions come true where just straight rock or that sound comes around. If you guys have not checked out the Wolfgang Mammoth, whatever you want to call it, Mammoth WVH album out, please check it out. It's not super long, it's enjoyable, and it's a good time. You'll leave the album, you'll end the album A probably crying because of the last song, but B feeling good about yourself and feeling good about, I can accomplish what I want to accomplish. I can do this. It's a good song or a good album just to have in your playlist and put on shuffle, because when it pops up and you haven't listened to it for a while and you forget who it is, you'll be like, what band is this? I like this sound. And then you look, you're like, oh, it's Mammoth. So yeah, definitely check it out. But hey, I appreciate everyone who's come to the first episode of Coffee Time with Jack. I hope that this will become a weekly series. We'll see. This has been something that I have really wanted to do for a while. This is my Red Lobster coffee cup. I'm probably gonna have a coffee cup, a different cup every episode for a while. I collect coffee cups. Um, I got this from a Red Lobster under interesting means. If you ever want to hear that story, I'll tell you guys that story someday. But I appreciate you guys coming and checking this out. Jack Punkington signing out. Peace.